All right, so I guess we're doing this again. This is photojournal 2. Video number 2. Slightly less weird this time. So this video was actually originally planned to come out before the New York one, but I am a textbook procrastinator, so I kept putting off developing the film. I think you can actually see it in that video. But hey, I finally got my crap together and here we are. So where the last video was centered around my trip to New York, this one is centered around my own backyard, so to speak. About 2 months back, wow, I really am a procrastinator. About 2 months back, I drove out to a region of the mountains around here called the Black Mountains. If you're at all familiar with the mountain region of North Carolina, the Black Mountains is an area that's northwest of Asheville and contains Mount Mitchell, which is the highest peak anywhere east of the Mississippi. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. I brought with me this time the Bronica ETRS, which is a medium format film camera that shoots in the 6:4:5 aspect ratio. I also brought with me the Minolta Maxxum 7XI, which shoots 35mm film. My first stop of the day wasn't actually planned. I took highway most of the way there and eventually got off and took some back roads up into the mountains. While starting to climb in elevation a bit, I came across a lake. It was a private lake for the most part, so most of the scenes that would have been worth shooting would have also involved trespassing. This isn't really a good idea just in general, but especially not in this area in the mountains, if you know what I mean. While I was here though, I took the opportunity to load both cameras up with some Kodak Gold, and I took a few shots of the non-invasive nature. Locked and loaded. It usually takes me a while to kind of warm up and find my stride when going out on an outing like this, so some of these shots, I don't really know what was going through my head to make me want to take them. After this stop, I kept climbing the back roads up into the mountains until I finally reached what would be the backbone of today's drive, the Blue Ridge Parkway. If you're not familiar, here in North Carolina we have this incredible stretch of road called the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's basically 469 miles of asphalt stretching from Rockfish Gap in Virginia all the way down to Cherokee, North Carolina. I've only ever traveled the North Carolina portion of it. Maybe I should do a future video where I do the entire length of the parkway. Huh. Here we are. I believe that's Mount Mitchell up here. It's like the first little hump of it, but I believe we're going right over here. Looks like it's partially in the clouds, so I don't know what we'll be able to see, but if there's no sun, maybe we can get some cool fog shots or something. This is why you go to Mount Mitchell. Anyways, after finishing up the first roll of the day, which would be Kodak Gold, I decided to load up some Fuji Pro 400H. From the base, it looked like most of the peak was shrouded in clouds, so it was going to be a lot less light up there. I figured using a 400 speed would help me out with the lower light. Plus, Fuji film stocks tend to have cooler tones with how they render color, so I thought all the greens of the pine trees at this elevation would have been really elevated by that. I ended up not being all that stoked with how some of these photos came out. Also, in several instances, a lot of instances, I metered my 35mm shots completely wrong. This camera is one of my go-tos. I think it's incredibly underrated, but every now and then I guess it's good to be humbled and reminded that there's always room for improvement in your craft. Shooting film is an art, and sometimes art is pain. After coming out of the clouds at Mount Mitchell, it was still pretty bright out, so I decided to throw some Ektar 100 into the mix. As a 100 speed film, it has an incredibly fine grain that is almost undetectable in the finished product, which a lot of people really love. But with that being said, Ektar 100 gets kind of a bad rep in the film community. This is mostly because of the way that it renders color. Everything always comes out super saturated. Personally, I don't really see why so many people hate this film stock though. On second thought, maybe I get the hate. These colors are groovy. I have to admit though, one of my absolute favorite shots from the day also came from this roll. I guess Ektar is kind of a film stock of extremes. You either love it or you hate it, and I am still undecided where I stand. So I decided to end the day by catching sunset at a very popular spot here in this area. When I pulled into the parking lot, this peak also was completely shrouded in clouds. But it looked from where I was standing that it was going to clear up pretty quickly, so I decided to book it up the trail and take a chance. And I was wrong. I waited for about 20 minutes at the very crowded summit to see if the conditions would change, and they did. They got worse. Time was actively running out until sunset, so I had to make the decision whether to stay or to run down the path back to the car and catch sunset at a different spot. I chose the latter, nearly tripping and falling the entire way down the trail to get back to the car, and we were off. While I was driving, I got to the point where I could see below the cloud line, and I could tell that the color was getting really good, and time was still very much running out. Oh my god. But I totally wasn't feeling the pressure at all. Oh my god. I did end up finding a new spot, so I loaded some Portra 400 into the Bronica to finish off the day. I actually didn't shoot this entire roll at this point. I think I had 4 or 5 shots that I had to use up on a different day. So I guess I'll show those now. All in all, I think I'm pretty happy with what I captured on this day. even with how badly I goofed up the metering on the 35mm shots. So many of those were underexposed, just like the last video. I don't know, maybe I just suck. But again, just like the last video, I guess there is a market for this in the form of a nice aesthetic album cover. Here's a few of my favorite shots that I captured on the Minolta. I think overall my favorite shots from this day came off of the Bronica, with Portra 400 and Ektar 100 being the winners here. Anyways, guys, thank you again for sticking this out and watching me fumble my way through this financially irresponsible form of artistic expression. You know, despite sometimes being severely humbled by what a lot of people would probably consider to be a completely outdated and unnecessary form of photography, I think shooting film really is rewarding. At least that's what I tell myself in the mirror. The next entry in this series is actually going to be based around a trip to Oregon that I'm taking, or have taken, or am currently on, depending on when I upload this. I don't know. It'll be centered around a trip to Oregon that I'm taking with some friends of mine. That will come out in October. This might be October. I don't know what the heck I'm doing at this point. I'm planning other types of videos as well, so make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more, and also so that you know when those videos drop. And yeah, I will see you on the next one.